What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And on this latest edition of Commanders Weekly, we have a special show. A friend of the channel has returned. Rico from Street Scores, bro. How are you doing on this lovely Monday evening?
I'm good, man. How are you, man? Just happy to be here, man. Always love being on your channel. Always funny and fun, man. I'm ready.
For sure, bro. I appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate the few people that are in the chat already. Thank you, Brown Boy Sports Talk, White Rabbit as well. And with that being said, let's get started. So I feel like the last time I talked to you was before the NBA playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted your thoughts on how the NBA season ended, your boy Ant and how he did in the playing game and towards the tail end of the regular season, and also the NBA finals as well. What are your thoughts on all of that?
All right, so starting with Ant, he had a couple of bad games to end that series, and I honestly felt like, at their best, the Timberwolves were better than the Grizzlies. You know, they were really the better team like 80% of the series. It just whenever it got to the fourth quarter, they just would collapse. Ja in there, Ja injured, wherever. It just seemed like the Grizzlies, first of all, were just a better coach team. They held their composure, making 20-point fourth quarter comebacks. So, but Ant played better than I expected in some of those games, but overall, it's not where he needs to be. Like, he had some games where he kind of disappeared. He was taking bad shots. But either way, I'm just really happy, first of all, to see him in any form of playoff basketball this soon. I thought when they first drafted him number 1 overall, I thought it was going to be forever until the Timberwolves, maybe like 5 years till they sniffed the playoffs. And even though it had to be done through the play-in, I was just happy to see them, play some playoff basketball and actually had the Grizzlies on the ropes a little bit. So I was really happy about that. He got to put up some highlights. With him in the playoffs, he's getting more exposure, so we get to see, his personality come out more. So I
saw the movie too. Saw that in the movie too.
Oh, yeah, my boy Ant in the movie, my boy Ernest, whatever. It was a really good movie, and I was really happy that he was in it. Yeah, I don't know where that name came from, but yeah, I feel like he was a natural for the role. Shouts out to Juan because I remember Adam Sandler basically said like they approached Juan with the script, and then they didn't have anybody for that villain role yet, and he basically recommended Anthony Edwards play that role. So shouts out to him too, because that was great for him putting Ant on. Ant wasn't even originally casted for that. He asked if he could. So shouts out to my boy. What was his nickname in the movie again?
Kermit something. I forgot the last name.
What's his one? What was one's Bo?
Oh, Bo.
Bo something.
What was it? Yeah.
Bo.
Crap, I'm forgetting it.
I forgot. But shouts out to Bo for putting Ant on.
For sure. Brown Boy Sports Talk in the chat. Nazi was wrong with the Warriors, just like you were wrong about the Wizards, bro. But I mean, the Warriors ended up winning the championship. I mean, do they want a cookie? It's fine. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I did want to also ask you though about Jabari Smith, because I know I saw on your Twitter feed you shouted him out because I believe he's from Georgia, right? And he got drafted 3rd overall. What is it like having, another Georgia stud enter the NBA?
I'm excited. I mean, I don't, Ant's from like Oakland City. He's from like right there. So I knew more about him. Jabari Smith, I know he's from there, but I didn't really know him growing up high school wise. So I'm not as attached to him, honestly. But I am rooting for him. And I'm sorry, I have something. I don't know what's going on, but I'm rooting for him. He's from like the Atlanta metro area. He's like halfway between me and Fayetteville. So it's like not Atlanta, but it's like it's there. It's closer than Antonio Gibson. Like Antonio Gibson is like an hour away. He's, Jabari Smith's probably like 20 minutes, 15 minutes outside of Atlanta technically. But I'm rooting for him. I thought he should have went number 1, even, region bias aside. Yep. I thought he should have gone number 1. I can see the argument though with the potential of Paolo and then Chet. They think he may be the better blocking version of Porzingis. He just got to gain some weight though, for real. But I can see the argument, but I still feel like he should have gone 1st overall. So I'm glad because now he has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he even looked visibly upset during the draft, so I think he's gonna play harder with it.
Facts. He looked professional, man. Jabari Smith Jr. looked professional on draft night. And I think he's ready to put in the work in the NBA. Brown Boy Sports Talk Cruz, Bo Cruz. That was the name.
Thank you. Thank you. I was struggling.
Yes, sir. But on a more serious note, transitioning to the NFL. I mean, I don't think we even got a chance to talk about all this, but what are your thoughts on all the tragedies that have happened to current and former NFL players in recent months? Of course, Dwayne Haskins, we know about that from a couple months ago, but also Marion Barber, Jalen Ferguson, Tony Siragusa just within the last week and a half, Jeff Gladney as well. Like, what are your thoughts on all that? And yeah.
I mean, definitely my condolences to everybody that's close to those guys. I feel like most relatably for me is Tony. From when I was a kid, when he was a sideline reporter and everything, that was the one that probably got me the most out of the everybody recently. But yeah, my thoughts and condolences to everybody for sure. Because yeah, it's crazy. It's been like one off season. I mean, if we're talking about just within a year span, it's been crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
and Tony wasn't even that old. I believe he was like 52 or something like that. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember I saw the clip of him on what's his name, the America's Got Talent judge, Howard Stern. I saw a clip of his radio show where Tony Siragusa basically talked about how sad it was with like his father pretty much like passing away in his arms, like I think it was like a decade ago or something. And how he died from like a sudden heart attack and everything. And like, I don't know, it just gave me goosebumps, right? Hearing how Tony Siragusa ultimately passed away and all that. So prayers to everyone that I mentioned and everyone that's not mentioned. But however hard it may be, I want to ask you, bro, as well about the congressional investigation that is currently underway for the Washington Commanders, including the congressional subpoena that's reportedly going out to Dan Snyder, although he's subtly resisting the subpoena right now. But what are your thoughts on all of that? And do you think Mr. Daniel Snyder is finally on his way out?
I mean, I'm not gonna hold my breath on that because no matter how much evidence they get, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some long, just delayed process of we can't sell even though he's technically forced to sell the team, which is a step we're not even at yet. But even if we were to get to that step, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some long, slow process of, finding the right suitor and all kinds of stuff. So, and then just the subpoena thing is funny too, because I think you're technically supposed to issue that in person. And now he's suddenly in Europe. I think he's in France, supposedly for his son doing something. But like, I think he's just like, let me stay away so they can't get me. His lawyer is also away, they say, for a separate matter. The whole situation is funny. It's sad, but it's just funny because it's just everything is so slow paced. Nothing's concrete. It's a bunch of maybes, and it's just bad. And it seems like as Commander fans, we're always in the news for something bad. It never fails. If it's Dan Snyder, something else. Dan Snyder, something else. Dan Snyder. It's like a repeating cycle of it's something.
Yep. And everybody talks about how all this drama will go away if we win some games. I mean, do you believe in do you really believe that, or do you think as long as Snyder is here, the drama is just going to surround this organization?
I feel like it'll be mitigated, but it won't completely go away. I mean, Dan Snyder's your owner. There's always going to be something brought up from the past. Hopefully there's nothing currently going on. I feel like, they changed the front office. Everything now is straight, but there's always going to be more things that come to light from this already happened before Rivera and company got there, years before they got there. And I feel like it's always going to come up, new piece of evidence. Because, all of the evidence we're getting from Dan Snyder, reportedly it's not happening now. It's just they're uncovering new things as they go. And then it hits the news and it's a headline again. So I feel like that won't stop. But as long as we're winning, I feel like us as a fan base can at least deal with it better. At least we got to deal with Dan Snyder, but hey, at least we're in the playoffs, instead of it. The only headline you see of the Commanders, like if you go to Google and search Commanders and go to the news section, it's nothing good. It maybe it's some training camp, some OTA stuff, but all of the headline stuff that, for me, especially, I don't have any other Burgundy and Gold fans in any of my friend group. I have some family members, but the only time my friends remember my team exists is when it's something bad. It's never something good. It's never, oh yeah, y'all do. Why y'all always, the name? Oh, y'all finally changed the name, and then all of that type of stuff. So it's never anything football related, ever, rarely.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this before, but bro, I completely understand your feeling. Just being in Chicago the last couple of years, every time we would talk about sports and stuff. And I even have like a couple of friends who, are also podcasters as well. They would sort of ask me like, why is your team always in the news? Like, does it not get exhausting for you? Like, what is going on? And one of my podcast friends would be like kind of jealous that like I would always have content to talk about with this team because there's so much drama. Which I mean, I guess as a pro, but like I would rather take the winning and the lack of drama any day over the content. But
sure.
Yeah, bro, I completely agree with you. As long as Dan Snyder is the owner of this team, it's a big yikes. It's a big yikes.
I mean,
Another big yikes. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say probably only half of my friends could tell me what our first round pick was, but everybody knows Dan Snyder. Everybody knows the football team changed the Commanders. Everybody knows the subpoena, the congressional hearing. But like I said, only probably half of my friends know Jahan Dotson exists.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you have the commissioner of the NFL, right, basically talk about how bad your team's culture was up until 2020. I mean, it's hard not to know the Commanders for the drama, for the bad workplace culture, even if the changes are happening right now under my guy, Jason Wright, and also Ron Rivera. But I want to get into another little spat that we had over Twitter between Daron Payne and RG3, where the latter basically said that the D-line stepping up this year after a dud last year is a bigger key to wins for the Commanders this season than Carson Wentz's play. And Daron Payne basically called out RG3 and called him a turf monster out of spite. So what are your thoughts on that little situation? Who do you think is in the right, in the wrong? And on Daron Payne as well. Do you think he's going to be on this team past this season?
Well, I'll go ahead and address that now. I think it's unlikely because, I mean, even just years ago, we were looking like, are we going to keep Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne, or is it going to be a combination of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Daron Payne, but not Jonathan Allen? Then we paid Jonathan Allen long term. I doubt they're going to let go of their edge rushers. People always feel like you can replace the interior defensive line quicker than you can replace the outside guys, which is not always true all of the time. But it looks like Daron Payne is the odd man out, even though, I mean, Terry McLaurin skipped mandatory minicamps. Daron Payne didn't. So, I mean, he's showing that he wants to be here. He likes being here. So we'll see maybe at some point. But I don't know. I think it's unlikely. It's just hard. Like, if we're just talking about salary cap allocation, like, where do you spend it? We're probably going to – I mean, if Carson Wentz balls out, which we hope he does, he's going to – probably ask for money soon, probably 2-3 years down the line because of the way his contract is set up, or maybe he'll try to demand it now. So that's going to wrap up a lot of money. I mean, if you're hoping all of your players play well, we got Cole Holcomb coming up soon, Cameron Curl at different positions. You don't want to spend all of that money on defensive line only, especially when the way they played last year before injuries.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, we have a talented defensive line. At the end of the day, we already signed Jonathan Allen to a big contract. Chase Young is probably going to be up for a huge contract soon. We actually hope, right? Because that means he's putting the work on the field and not just, training with Von Miller, which we'll get to a little bit later. But yeah, I completely agree with you there, Rico. I will ask you this, though. With Daron Payne sort of his position on the team sort of being in flux right now, right? With, all the contract stuff. Could he potentially be a guy that we don't just get rid of after this season, potentially at the trade deadline, maybe at this season, like especially if things aren't going right and we already know Daron Payne is going to walk pretty much after 2022. Could he potentially be a trade deadline sort of guy that we get rid of?
Well, I mean, first of all, we lose him. Maybe we get a third round compensatory pick. I'm not even sure. And I'm pretty sure teams know that. And they're like, well, we won't really offer you anything higher than the third because we know the compensatory pick formula, how that works. And I think the trade deadline if you're going to trade them, that's the best time. That's when value is the highest. That's when you get a thirsty Super Bowl contender that feels like they're a Daron Payne away from winning a Super Bowl. They're willing to give up more value then. And maybe during the draft, right before the draft, maybe those are like the two times where – if you're trying to trade a veteran player away, that's when you can get the most value in return. So if we're going to do it, I feel like it would be sometime later, October. But I'm not sure, man. I mean, they may even go with the franchise tag. I don't know. but it's just finding a suitor. It takes two to tango, and Deron Payne, I love him as a player. But again, I'm pretty sure we're going to ask for more than what teams are willing to give up to. So I feel like that's going to clash. So I think he just may end up walking at the end of the season. And hopefully we get a decent compensatory pick.
Another guy who we had a sort of bad contract situation with, right? But ultimately, I believe now he's released from the team, and Landon Collins. I think a lot of people are forgetting about him, right? The fact that we let go of him technically this offseason. But I remember I read a Bleacher Report earlier this week. Best free agents left on the market. It was the top 10 free agents. Number 2 was Landon Collins.
Oh, okay.
Is there a possibility? And number 1, I believe, was OBJ, right? Which makes sense. But could Landon be back next year or this upcoming season?
I would hope so. I mean, it looks like other teams aren't necessarily clamoring to get him. So I feel like availability is there. On our end, do we want him? He clearly wants to come back to us, as he's posted on his Instagram and his stories and things like that. He's shown that, set it up. Let's get the gang back together type of thing. It's just whether or not we want to. I feel like it's similar to the Anthony Barr situation with our interest with him. I think they're waiting to see how the young guys look in training camp once we have on full-on pads, maybe a preseason game or two. If they feel like we really need Anthony Barr or Landon Collins, I think then they'll bring them in. But I don't see, like, Landon Collins, I feel like at the soonest will be sometime training camp. I don't think we'll bring them in before then. First of all, people on vacation, they're not even – Ron Rivera's probably not even thinking about football right now. He's on the island somewhere chilling. But even so, I think they want to see Khalid Hudson, Jamin Davis, and then even guys like Derek Forrest, Percy Butler, and Benjamin St. Juste. I mean, right now he's technically our leading candidate for Buffalo nickel, but we got to see him in pads and see if he can handle the run game side of it and all of that physicality versus just how well he's played in coverage. And if they feel like they need a Landon Collins after like the first preseason game, maybe the second, then I feel like they'll sign him. And I do want him back. I would prefer to have him back, especially for very cheap, even just as a veteran locker room presence to teach somebody.
Only 28.
Yeah. He's not even that old. And then even if you to bring him back to start grooming the next guy, if you have Landon Collins next to Derek Forrest every day, maybe that enhances Derek Forrest's development.
Or Percy Butler, right? They talked him up after they drafted him, potentially playing him a lot this upcoming season, maybe in the Buffalo nickel, maybe in the slot. I mean, Percy Butler, I know reportedly he hasn't been that great thus far this offseason, but they talked him up a bunch during the draft. And I don't know. I just can't forget that. James here, I ain't trading Terry. The only way I'm trading Terry is if someone offers us a Herschel Walker type deal, which ain't going to happen. I like that, James. I like it. We'll get into Terry right after this topic, though. Rico, what are your thoughts on Chase Young working out with Von Miller the last couple of weeks? And do you think Chase is poised for a huge comeback season?
I mean, I want to be excited, and I am excited. The problem is he's not even healthy enough to play in a regular season game right now. So he's soaking up everything, I'm pretty sure, from Von Miller. And the reason we want him around a Von Miller is because Von Miller is a freak athlete in his own right. But, hands, plan of attack, counters, technique, nuanced things. Like Chase Young has all of the athleticism in the world. He needs to work on everything else. So he's soaking that up, but at the same time, I mean, he's not able to go full throttle. So Von Miller's showing him a move, and Chase Young may not even physically be able to actually mimic it right now. I mean, mentally he could try to soak it in, memorize it, and be like, when I'm healthy, maybe I'll try it. But he's not there with Von Miller. He does something, Chase Young does it right back. I mean, maybe there's a little things, but they can't do everything. So it's nice. I hope he gets back with Von Miller this next offseason when he's healthy, so he can truly be able to absorb everything he's trying to give him.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Chase Young working out with Von Miller, sort of receiving his mentorship and all that. I get it. I really do. But at the end of the day, bro, I'm so sick and tired of the workout videos. I really am, bro. Not just Chase Young, any player, bro, for this team. Everybody gets hyped and, tweets out the clips, and, that starts, basically making everybody go crazy about this team and the potential of that player. And I'm like, bro, it's a workout video. They're all working out. They're NFL players. At the end of the day, I get it's Von Miller, right? This is a future Hall of Famer. I get that. At the end of the day, I want to see Chase actually put the work that he puts in the offseason on the field and gets me more than 1.5 sacks through 9 games. That's what I want to see out of Chase Young as an edge rusher.
I didn't even finish the video. I looked at it and was like, that's great, and I'm happy, I'm excited, but I couldn't finish the video because it's like, I feel you. It's like, to what point? If it doesn't show on the field, then what was it for?
Facts. Now, on the Terry topic. Actually, let me ask you one more question on the defense. You mentioned young guys in defense potentially stepping up. What's going on with Jamin Davis? Is he gonna be one of our 2 starting linebackers this upcoming season, or is David Mayo gonna potentially man one of those spots? Like, what is going on with the first round pick, number 19 overall last year?
Yeah, that situation is weird. So far this offseason, from all media members, from coaches, even Cole Holcomb himself, they're raving about how much he's developed and how much more confident he is, and most importantly, how much more natural he is at will linebacker versus the Mike linebacker, of course. We all knew that.
Which we were all saying exactly.
but I mean, apparently everybody, I'm not sure if it's hype because they're like, we gotta get the fan base engaged. We can't act like we just wasted a first round pick. So let's talk him up. But I mean, it just seems like it's coming from so many different sources that it may be genuine that he is looking better, but at the same time, what is better? Because you can't get any worse than last year, honestly.
Yeah.
But what is better from last year? Is it going from terrible to bad, or is it terrible to actually good? So, I mean, I guess we'll see in training camp. But as of right now, everybody's hyping him up.
Yeah, man. He's another one that I just want to see put it all out there on the field. And he had, I know some people are pushing this under the rug, but he had some pretty good plays last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember that 4th down stop, I believe it was against the Bills. I think he had another 4th down stop, if not a turnover. It might have been like a 3rd down stop or something like earlier in the season as well. But I mean, he showed some great moments, but there was a lot of times where he looked lost, and hopefully could be more consistent. I mean, you need to have that consistency as the 19th overall pick, right? As a guy that was supposed to come in here and solve our linebacker position that hasn't been solved yet. David DC here. If Davis is not a starter, then Ron cannot pick nobody. I mean, we were supposed to trust Ron Rivera and Mr. Jack Del Rio, right? Linebacker coaches, former linebackers. I mean, right? Like,
you would think that would be our best position group. Like, you would think.
Yeah. Yep. Now onto the offense. Of course, still the biggest news story, I believe, on the field for the Commanders. Terry McLaurin. Will he or won't he re-sign with the Commanders? What are your thoughts, Rico, on all that? I mean, we've already had 2 comments in here asking about Terry. James right here with a great comment. Dave and DC as well. Interesting front office. We'll get Terry contract done. David's getting nervous. Thoughts on Terry re-signing with the team and also what the contract might look like?
I mean, I'm just hoping it's more of a Jonathan Allen thing where, I mean, hopefully sooner than Jonathan Allen, but we signed him like the morning of training camp or something like that. As long as it's done before training camp, I'm happy, even though every day that passes, I'm getting more and more nervous. But I'm fairly optimistic because it just seems like, John Com, he doesn't try to be first. He tries to be the most accurate. And he said like multiple times, they really want to bring back Terry McLaurin. Like Ron Rivera even said it. He not just because of the player on the field, but he said we need to improve our reputation for signing our own guys so that we can bring in free agents in the future. So guys that are currently on the team, feel like we're handling contracts situations in good faith. So it's not even just on the field; it's off the field. Ron Rivera feels the pressure to get Terry McLaurin signed long term to show other free agents, even from players that are already on other teams right now who may be becoming free agents soon, that Washington will pay you what you deserve. But yeah, again, I think it will get done. I don't think it's going to be Brandon Sheriff, Kirk Cousins. I think this will get done. When it will, I'm not sure who it is before training camp. I think honestly it's more so maybe on Terry McLaurin's side why it may not be done. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I'm just, thinking out loud. I think he's probably holding out for even more money than probably people think. And maybe everybody's playing the waiting game. See what AJ Brown gets. See what DK Metcalf gets. I'm gonna try to top that. And I guess nobody wants to be the first one to sign because once you sign, you're the highest paid receiver for maybe a week. maybe he's just waiting. But yeah, I think it gets done. Honestly, I mean, this front office gives me no room for optimism. But again, from the sources with John Com, that puts me at ease a little bit better.
Yeah, bro. I agree with you. Roger Smith here, though, with the comment on Jamin Davis. Game was so fast for him. You could tell he was overwhelmed at times, thinking too much. He should be way better this year. Well, I agree with everything up until he should be way better. I mean, actually, I do agree with that. He should be way better. We'll see if he actually is. He has all the athletic attributes, but like, I don't know, man. It's all about what lies between the ears, honestly, especially at linebacker.
Yeah.
But on the Terry stuff, yeah, I've been saying since all this Terry stuff really came out that I expect him to re-sign with the team right before training camp, just like Jonathan Allen last year. I am getting nervous with each passing day, like you said, Rico. But honestly, if he's not signed by training camp, if he's missing training camp days, then I think we need to press the panic button because Terry McLaurin is too important on this offense. We have a brand new quarterback in tow who I already have my doubts on, but put that aside. Like, we need that connection. We need to establish it between Wentz and Terry. And if you're slowing down that process, that could slow down our offense, right, to start the season. And we need to win the first couple of games, especially with the way our schedule has been laid out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Carson Wentz has never thrown a pass to Terry McLaurin yet. He hasn't. I mean, he's been throwing to Jahan Dotson. To Carson Wentz, Jahan Dotson is our wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I definitely have a problem with him being the wide receiver 1 right now, obviously, because I want Terry to be the wide receiver 1. But, bro, I'm so high on Jahan Dotson, bro. I've been high on him, bro. Like, draft night, when I was at the Commanders draft party, I was like a lot of people, like, wait, what? Jahan Dotson, the connection was never there between the Commanders and him throughout the pre-draft process, and he was the 4th best receiver, according to a lot of scouts and all that. But I'm assuming the same with you, Rico, as we watched more film, as we read more about him, as we saw the kind of person that we're bringing into DC with Jahan Dotson. I mean, I think he's going to be a stud for us. Do you agree?
I agree. I mean, first of all, we got to remember Terry McLaurin's a 3rd-round pick. Jahan's a 1st-rounder. So there's that. Also, I believe I said this before, but like we could tell the Commanders had a type. The reason they like Drake London so much was because he could carry an offense. Bad quarterback, no offensive weapons around him. Jahan Dotson is the same. Granted, I think Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave will be good receivers, but they had each other. They had the guy that's coming out next for Ohio State, who people feel like is better than both of them. The CJ Stroud is the quarterback. Jahan Dotson was literally the offense. The quarterback was bad. Ron Rivera tried so hard to hype up Jahan Dotson without downplaying the quarterback and trashing him too much. But it's just like, bro, I mean, he was out there. He was the offense. Defense is new coming into every game. Jahan Dotson is the only way Penn State scores points, and he still found a way to go out there and be productive. So they definitely had a type in trying to find a receiver that could carry a team. Because if you have the ability to carry a team, and then you're surrounded with all of these other guys, you're definitely going to do your job one-on-one going against maybe the 2nd or 3rd best cornerback of the opposing defense any given day. So yeah, just like you, as I started to watch him more, read more on him, started to get really excited. I mean, even before we drafted him, I kept hearing he has the best hands in the draft. He's one of the best route runners. But even so, like, I wasn't sold on him yet. But as I've been watching more, thinking about it more, like you said, reading more, I think he's going to end up being a really good receiver. I mean, Logan Paulson and Chris Cooley both feel like, honestly, as a pure receiver, if we're talking just pure route running and demanding coverage attention, they feel like he's better than Terry McLaurin already. Terry McLaurin is just a better athlete, which makes him the better receiver overall. But they feel like route running specifically and for a defensive game planning against them, I'm not that high on them yet. We're going to have to see it. But that's how Logan Paulson and Chris Cooley feel about him.
Wow. That doesn't mean we cannot re-sign Terry McLaurin, or we should not. No. I hope the front office is not thinking like that.
Please.
Because we have a special, quote-unquote, special guy in Jahan Dotson here that Terry is expendable. No. We brought in Jahan Dotson to finally pair an elite receiver or potentially elite receiver alongside Terry, right? Terry has shouldered this offense for way too freaking long, and we brought Jahan Dotson in to pair alongside him, not to replace him. But with the contract stuff, I ultimately think it's going to be about 4 years, $102 million. So right where I think Dave and BC mentioned about 26 million, I think it's gonna be like 25 and a half, something like that. Maybe it's slightly over AJ Brown. 59 million guarantee, which I think is also slightly higher than AJ Brown's 57.22 million guarantee. But I think a contract like that is just right. I know it's higher than when we started earlier in the offseason, but
hey,
as the saying goes, yesterday's price.
Not today's price. Market went up.
Go.
Christian Kirk messed it up for everybody.
Yep. You think it's going to be about the same price?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be something at the very least 24 million per year plus. I think. But honestly, my question is like, since it's an extension, it wouldn't affect this year's cap technically, right? So why is it not done yet? Like, what is he asking for to why it's not done yet? We have the cap space going next year, so I don't know. It's always been confusing to me because it has me questioning myself. I'm like, it is an extension, so it shouldn't affect the cap space this year. All of these moves where we're not bringing back Landon Collins, all of that type of stuff, that shouldn't affect the Terry deal right now because that's affecting this year. Terry's deal should be affecting next year and further on.
Yep. And I'll bring up this point. It's sort of what Roger is talking about here. Actually, very much what he's talking about. If you're going to keep Ron Rivera and with 2 consecutive 7-win seasons, and one of the reasons that a lot of people say you got to keep him, or the front office is probably keeping him for, is because he's the consistent, stable force, I guess, in Washington right now amidst all the drama that they're dealing with. If we're going to keep Ron Rivera amidst the 2 straight 7-9, 7-10 seasons, then you got to keep Terry, right? For part of the same reason, right? He's been the offense for I don't know how many games, and people might look at the stats and might see, oh, Terry only had 40 yards one game, 30 yards another game, but he was our entire offense for much of the last 3-4 seasons, and you got to keep him. I agree with Roger Smith. Hopefully it's not 26 and a half. That's a little high, but I mean, it's going to be in that range.
Yeah, it's going to be closer to that than 18 a year for sure.
Yep. All right. So I mentioned how I felt a little bit about Carson Wentz, but what are your thoughts on the budding quarterback wide receiver chemistry between Wentz and Dotson? Carson Wentz has talked about how Dotson is one of the best that he's seen in terms of corralling the ball, right? Corralling the football, bringing it in. I mean, what are your thoughts on that connection? How special that one could be for the Commanders this season?
Well, even just starting with Carson Wentz, one thing that has me optimistic, I mean, we'll see what happens in games, but I mean, the fact that we're already doing like situational football stuff, like 2-minute drills, that shows he already has the playbook down. Normally, teams don't really get to that type of stuff till like training camp, but they were already starting to experiment with it in OTAs. He's already throwing no-look passes. So apparently he's really comfortable with the offense. He feels like he has it down, at least to a certain extent, to where he's willing to try stuff like that. So that has me optimistic about Carson Wentz by himself. And I feel like the connection with him and Jahan Dotson, I mean, as we've heard, I mean, maybe it's an indictment to our corners, but apparently Carson Wentz and Jahan Dotson has been uncoverable outside of Benjamin St-Juste. Benjamin St-Juste is the only one that's even given Jahan Dotson problems. And, I mean, once Terry McLaurin gets plugged in, I'm saying when, not if, once he gets plugged in and Jahan Dotson has the chemistry he has with Carson Wentz, I think this offense can definitely be explosive. And I mean, first of all, Carson Wentz's arm, this is going to be the first time we can use the entire field. I mean, we can be on our own 20-yard line, and teams have to respect the fact that, you have to cover the entire 80 yards. You're not just covering the first 20, 30. And I just feel like that's going to open up things for everybody. I mean, I think even against the Jaguars, before Carson Wentz even shows what he can do with this receiving core, just his history with having a big arm is going to keep people out of the box, and that's going to allow Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson the ball out. So, and I just think it's going to be a well-balanced offense that, one helps the other helps the other, all of that type of stuff. And I think Jahan Dotson's going to spearhead it. I mean, because Terry McLaurin, hopefully he comes back as soon as possible. Hopefully he's missing no training camp. But if he comes back mid-training camp, Jahan Dotson may really be our wide receiver 1 going into the Jaguars game.
The Carson Wentz sort of kind of maybe revenge game off of the abysmal performance last year against the Jaguars for the Colts. But LF, no problem, bro. We're doing well. Appreciate you for joining. But with the Jahan Dotson point, there's already been some talk out there that he potentially could be the best receiver best receiver in this draft class. I mean, do you think, at least for the 2022 season, you could potentially have the best season for a rookie receiver over guys like the ones that you mentioned, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, but Jameson Williams, Christian Watson, Sky Moore, your Georgia Bulldog, George Pickens as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, I think he has an honest case to have the better season, especially if Carson Wentz can stay healthy. Terry McLaurin's balling out, distracting defenses. He's going to be going against corner number 2, 3, usually open. You got to worry about our run game as well. I think he does have an honest chance. I wouldn't say he's the leading candidate. I think guys like Jameson Williams, who we'll see if he's healthy by week 1, and then just his quarterback, Jared Goff. I mean, he's not terrible, but it's just I can already see Jameson Williams being open and Jared Goff not seeing them or missing them quite often, and that would be stats that he would have on his books that other receivers would have because they have better quarterbacks. So I think Jameson Williams automatically disqualified just because of Jared Goff.
But then again, last year Jared Goff was feeding the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he had a great rookie season last year, especially towards the tail end. I think he's one of the leading receivers in the entire league towards the last 4 or 5 games of the Lions schedule last year. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. That's right. And then we'll see with Chris Olave. I mean, if Michael Thomas is healthy, because as of right now, Chris Olave is probably wide receiver 1. Defenses are probably going to focus on stopping him. We'll see what Garrett Wilson.
What happened with Michael Thomas?
He's been hurt for like 3 years.
What is going on? Yeah, that crazy season, broke the receptions record, and injuries, missing.
I wish I could tell you. I had him on my fantasy league last year. Like, man, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back. It's gonna be like November. I'm gonna kill him when we started going to the fantasy football playoffs. He came back for like almost a game. Like he was like rumored to come back, then he didn't. I don't know, man. So we'll see what's going on with Michael Thomas. I have no idea.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, man. I kind of like what the Jets are doing, though. I kind of like what the Jets are doing. Garrett Wilson can be a big piece of that. I mean, I hyped up Breece Hall like crazy in my YouTube videos in the past, and they obviously have Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson. I thought he was the second best quarterback in the 2021 draft class, like months. I mean, months like ahead of time and stuff. Like I was a huge fan of him. I still am. So I like what the Jets are doing.
I feel like the hate he got last year was a little overblown. Because first of all, if you look at what all of the rookie quarterbacks had to do, he probably had the most on his plate, you could argue. Like as far as like not simplifying the offense, Mekhi Becton hurt, Garrett Wilson wasn't there yet, Corey Davis didn't play as well as we hoped. And so he had to deal with a lot. And I think he did receive a little too much hate. And I'm not going to necessarily say he's going to be a Pro Bowler this upcoming year, especially with the weapons he has around him. But I think he's going to be good enough to where Garrett Wilson's going to be happy and ball out.
Yep, I agree. And I think everybody likes to point to Zach Wilson's stats last year. I mean, I just looked this up. Josh Allen, first year. I was a huge fan of Josh Allen, too, coming out of college, even with all the inconsistency concerns. And yeah, 10 touchdowns and 12 picks in his rookie year. So, I mean, it happens, guys. Peyton Manning, everybody knows about him. So, Roger Smith here with the comment: the deep ball off play action is going to be organic. If Ron wants to run it more wide open, sub 4-5 weapons, a lot of plethora of them. It all depends on Scott. I mean, Yami Moore, potentially, Curtis Samuel, Terry, Jahan Dotson. I mean, you have Antonio Gibson on the backfield, Brian Robinson as well, J.D. McKissick, who's we all know he can catch the ball. I mean, some weapons, bro. Some weapons.
Yep. And hey, I've already warned my friends I wouldn't really trust any offensive player from the Commanders fantasy football wise because it could be anybody's day, any game. So I'm a little worried about that. I don't like who. I mean, maybe Logan Thomas gets 2 touchdowns one game. Maybe it's J.D. McKissick getting fed, Brian Robinson the next game. Maybe Jahan Dotson's getting most of the targets. So, I mean, you can try to take your chance on a couple of them later in fantasy, but I wouldn't draft any. Even Terry, I love him, but first round or anything like that, nah, it's just too many weapons. And I think Scott Turner wants to use them. I mean, Curtis Samuel was brought here to be the guy that gets the ball out of the backfield. He's supposed to be our slot receiver. He's supposed to be our deep threat. And I mean, we haven't even really included him in all of this yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, hopefully he stays healthy. I mean, he's dealing with where he was dealing with soreness, I believe, in his groin, if I'm not mistaken, or hamstring. I think it was hamstring. So hopefully he stays healthy for the season, because I think, honestly, when I think about it, I think he's the true X factor on this offense. Because if he stays healthy, provide a deep threat, could also do a lot of end around runs. Like, he's a gadget guy as well. So, I mean, it might play into Scott Turner's hands, and we might actually see why Ron Rivera has kept Scott Turner this long, despite the lack of offensive statistics and everything the last couple of years. But Dave and DC, we are loaded this year. If Terry comes back, Commanders just need to play potential. I agree. Also, bro, loaded in terms of offensive skill weapons, but let's talk about him, bro. Let's talk about him. Carson Wentz. I mean, I know you saw the ranking out there. I thought it was egregious, even with all my, doubts about Carson Wentz. 30th overall in the NFL.
He was under? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, under Trevor Lawrence right now, maybe after this season, but right now, the worst one, under Kenny Pickett. Under Kenny Pickett right now? Come on. I mean, what are your thoughts on that list? Where would you rank him, like, in terms of quarterbacks right now?
I'm probably closer to what Chris Sims said. I'm not sure if you've seen his QB rankings. I mean, he's pretty good when it comes to quarterback evaluation. He's the one that's, first of all, the highest on Percy Butler I've seen out of anybody anywhere, even out of people in our media team as a Commanders. But I mean, he was just like you on Josh Allen early. Like, just wait, he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's
and Zach Wilson that was his first quarterback too.
Yeah. So, and I think he had Carson Wentz somewhere like 15, 14. He says, like, this is his last chance. He has all of the talent in the world. He has top 5 talent. We're talking top 5, top 8 talent. Inconsistent, though. Very inconsistent. Tries too hard to do stuff. I mean, we'll be backed up in, he hasn't played for us yet, but I mean, his own 20-yard line, go on the way down, getting sacked, try to throw it, interception to a linebacker for no reason when you can just punt the ball in flip field position. You're going to have to deal with stuff like that. He also, just the refusal to check the ball down, to take the safe play. We're going to have to deal with a lot of that. Hopefully, Scott Turner can get him out of some of that. I thought it was funny, too, because somebody asked Scott Turner about that sometime, like, weeks ago. He was like, man, basically, paraphrase it, but he said, man, this is a grown man. He's a veteran. Like, it's not much I can really tell him that's going to break him out of his habits that he's built from being in the league this long. It's not like he's a rookie. It's not like he's in his second year. So we're going to try to encourage him to take the safe play. But at the end of the day, he is who he is. We brought him in here because of who he is, and we just hope that he goes out there and makes less mistakes. But, I feel like he's somewhere in the teens. Just because of talent and potential. Again, talent-wise, he's one of the more talented quarterbacks. I mean, going back to his 2017 season, even his last season with the Eagles, when he had no receivers at all, I mean, I felt like that was a very impressive year for him as well. But
he had 4,000. The only quarterback ever to have 4,000 yards with no receiver that had over 500 yards. I think that was the tweet.
Something crazy. Yeah. That Jaguars game, I felt like the last game of the season, first of all, he was a big part of it, but I felt like it was a lot of things that went wrong, even just outside of him. So I feel like he gets a little bit too much hate there. But yeah, man, the big word for him is consistency. We have too many weapons for you to make mistakes. We have Terry, Jahan.
If Terry's back.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we have so many weapons, just don't mess it up, I feel like. And I feel like that clashes with his play style. He's kind of a hero ball guy. And we're definitely going to see some inconsistencies there, but I hope it works out, man. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And again, for as much as we talk down on Kirk Cousins, even on here, man, if you could bring sort of like a Kirk Cousins impact, right? But obviously, make more clutch plays at the end of games and stuff, then that could be enough. That could be enough for us to get to the 10, 11 wins that a lot of fans think we might get to this year. But Roger Smith here, the offensive unit, I do agree with this. The offensive unit has the most talent this franchise has ever had together. I don't know about that, but maybe recently, right? The last decade, as RG3 said, even if Wentz is mediocre.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talent. There's definitely a lot of talent. David DC sees a San Francisco type run out of us this year. So he's talking about NFC Championship surprise NFC
We'll say, wait,
champion.
is he talking about last year? Or is he talking about when they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, like when they came out of nowhere, kind of? But then that's different because I think they won 2 games the year before, and then they went all the way to the Super Bowl. So maybe that's what he's talking about. I'm not sure.
To be honest, though, they kind of came out of nowhere last year to be in the NFC Championship. I know they had the pedigree and stuff, but like nobody was expecting them to make it that far, and they beat the Cowboys. Ooh, I mean, we all did. I mean, I predicted on like come on, it's the Cowboys, but like they also beat the Packers, I believe, as well. Like shut that offense out. Yeah. So I've never watched Wentz. I just know he's 6'6" and a monster arm, but you got to be careful. You know, be careful when you're just looking at athletic attributes for quarterbacks, right? Like again, quarterback, linebacker. Linebacker is the quarterback of the defense, right? That's what a lot of people like to say. Quarterback, of course. A lot of the position lies between the ears, and Carson Wentz can't get right there. If he can't get back to at least his 2019 self, maybe it's gonna be a long season for us once again.
I mean, I think no matter what, it's gonna be fun. But how many games we win is the question. But I think if Carson Wentz is just starting quarterback, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. Hopefully, it's a little bit more consistency on the good side. But I think at the very least, when you bring in Carson Wentz, we're going to have fun. We're going to be watchable from other fan bases. Other fan bases really haven't been able to watch our games like that much. Like, oh, let's go watch the Washington football team versus the any random team. I think with Carson Wentz, other people will finally watch us more as well.
I mean, to be fair, though, we said the same thing with Fitz last year. Said the same with Fitz.
Yeah, he didn't even last a quarter.
Yeah. And speaking of not lasting a quarter, so are we going to dismiss the fact that before last season, kudos to Carson Wentz for staying healthy, even though, I mean, he was still playing on 2 bum ankles. Before last season, one of the biggest things about Carson Wentz was he could never stay healthy. Are we going to forget that this year? Maybe potentially seeing Taylor Heineke for most of the season? Like, I mean, that's a possibility too, right? God forbid, but like,
oh yeah, I would not put my life savings on Carson Wentz starting all 17 games this season. I'm not. I mean, just football naturally, but Carson Wentz especially. Nah, I definitely can see Taylor Heineke throwing some passes in regular season games this year for sure. I hope not, but I see it happening. It's Carson Wentz.
Yep. Red Wings here brings up an interesting point about Carson not being himself after coming back from COVID. Did COVID go away? Are we sure that when it gets colder, right, like it did last year in colder months, COVID started spreading more, even with as many people that are vaccinated right now that are vaccinated? Like, are we? And I talked to Rio about this like off camera. Like, are we sure we're not gonna have any like COVID outbreaks in the NFL season like we've had in recent memory? I know they changed their policy where they're not gonna test every day. I get that, but they also in their policy, I remember reading it. It said if a player has symptoms, right, they should get tested, and if they test positive, and they should be out for like a period of time, right? Which whatever that might be, 5 days, 6 days, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, right, if you get a group of players that test positive, especially when you don't have a mask sort of mandate in the NFL right now, talking about colder months, talking about potentially seasonal disease at this point. I mean, like, I get the COVID excuse last year, guys, but to be honest, like, we got to stop it because it's going to affect every team.
Yeah, and I'm afraid, like you were getting to, I'm afraid it may affect us again. So I don't know, man. Honestly, I'm afraid of it. I try to keep it in the back of my mind when it comes to football. Yeah. Hopefully, they can do what they need to do to protect themselves. Because, man, I mean, at the end of the day, when you win, when you don't make the playoffs, nobody's going to care, COVID, whatever, injuries. Nobody's going to look back 5 years from now and be like, well, that at the end of the day, if Ron Rivera can't get his team to go to the playoffs within 5 years, it may be time to move on. So hopefully COVID doesn't hit us because there's going to be no excuses.
Yeah, man. Yep. And, I mean, Michael Underwood brings up a good point here. It's been a while since we had a quarterback that could read a defense.
Yeah.
Carson could read a defense, and that's important to me. I get it. I really do. He has all the athletic attributes as well that you want. It's just about him being consistent, like Rigo said, to start off his comments. But, okay, we got to Carson Wentz. We got to pretty much the entire team. But I also want to get your thoughts on where the Commanders stand in the NFC East overall. How do you see the division shaking out this year? How many teams? What teams do you think will actually make the playoffs out of this division? And what do you actually have the win-loss record being for the Commanders?
Well, I think just as a base, it has to be more than 7 wins. I think Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke. I think adding Jahan Dotson, the pieces that we added, make us a better team. Now, granted, I mean, every team technically gets better every year. Well, most. I don't know what the Cowboys got going on. So, like, I try not to over exaggerate how much we got better because, of course, yeah, we got better. We drafted Jahan Dotson, but it's not like other NFL teams didn't draft players as well. But I think we did get better. And then again, Carson Wentz is an obvious upgrade over Taylor Heineke as long as he's consistent. COVID, as long as we don't get hit with that again. Injuries, I mean, we were down the 5th string offensive lineman, 5th string edge rushers and things like that. I think if we can stay healthy, avoid COVID, and Carson Wentz is our starting quarterback, I think the floor is 8 wins because we won 7 with a far more difficult schedule. We had the league's toughest schedule last year. We technically are tied for the league's easiest schedule going into this year. So I just think naturally 8 wins should be the floor. Like, if a lot of things go wrong, I still think 8 wins the floor. But I think
I'm gonna put you on the spot though. If we're talking about like straight up, Rico, give me a win-loss record for this team. Like, what would you say? Like, how many wins do you think this team is going to get this season?
I'm gonna go 10. I think 10 is very realistic. I think literally if Carson Wentz just plays how he played last year for the Colts, I think we win 10 games. And if we're generally healthy, because I mean it's the NFL. Every team gets injuries, but I mean I feel like we did have an excessive amount compared to most teams. Like it was probably only us and like a handful of other teams that were as affected by injuries as we were, especially by that second Cowboys game. I mean, it was just like nobody left. And we were right there in the playoff hunt all the way up until the end where the Eagles passed us because we were hurt. And even the Eagles, they never really like killed us. We were in some of those games with plenty of backup. So I think, first of all, I think the Eagles are a little overhyped, even though their offseason was amazing. Their offseason was like, I wish we had that offseason. I'm not going to lie. But I feel like the base team that they're starting with coming from last year is a little overhyped. But what they added, I love what they added. We'll see. But I think it's going to be between us and the Cowboys. Maybe both of us make it into the playoffs. I just think Dak and just the Cowboys, I think they're going to make the play. I feel like we can win the division, honestly. Like the Eagles are a sleeper, but I don't know. I just don't like Jalen Hurts. I'm not a believer in Jalen Hurts, me personally. I think he just has a certain ceiling to him. I think they're always gonna win like 7 to 9 games every season, but then then what type of thing? And I feel like Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott both have higher ceilings. I think it's gonna be between us and the Cowboys leading up to the playoff, and I think both of us will make it, probably.
I don't know, man. I think Jalen Hurts is gonna continue having that forward progression that he's had the last couple of years and be a better quarterback this year for the Eagles. And yeah, I mean, it's tough. I honestly, though, think that the division is going to be between the Eagles and the Commanders. I think the Cowboys got a lot worse this offseason. They had to let a lot of guys go because of their current cap situation. And I honestly see it being between the Eagles and the Commanders. I see both of the Eagles and Commanders making the playoffs this year. I just think the Commanders will be 9-8 and will make it as a wild card. One of the 3 wild cards that the NFC has this year. One of the reasons why is because of the schedule that the Commanders are playing, right? Like you mentioned it. It's, I mean, on paper, right? It's pretty easy. 2, I think the Commanders, I agree with you. Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke, even though I don't think Carson Wentz is the type of upgrade that we at least wanted at quarterback, right? Or we were satisfied, right, at quarterback with. We wanted Of course, we wanted a Russell Wilson, Virginia native. We wanted a Aaron Rodgers, but that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So we got Carson Wentz. It is what it is. But another reason that I think this team will also make the playoffs next year, albeit at 9-8, bro, the NFC conference is so weak right now.
Yeah,
it is so weak. I had to go through yesterday when I was wrapping up my notes. Like I was thinking of all the NFC teams that could legit be Super Bowl contenders this year. I really could only come up with 3. I had the Rams, which just made the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about our Super Bowl prediction a little bit later. But the Rams, the Bucks with Tom Brady. Without Tom Brady, no way. But with Tom Brady, you got to put them there. And I mean, I guess the Packers, but they lost Devontae Adams. I know their defense got a lot better this offseason with the draft picks and free agency and
Georgia
stuff. But
guys.
yeah, the Georgia guys for sure, for sure. I mean, you got to hype them up, man. For
Yeah.
one offseason, you got to hype up your Bulldogs.
Oh yeah,
Roll Tide season.
Oh yeah,
Roll Tide season. But
the world tour. And they get Jair back too, so I think
that's a very good point. He was gone for a good part of last season. So, but yeah, I would say those are probably tier 1. But after that, what's tier 2? The Eagles? The 49ers?
I don't trust the Cardinals. I don't.
I don't trust the Cardinals either, bro. Kyler Murray, man, bro. 2 straight years, 2 straight epic collapses in the second half of the season. I mean, people are going to hate me for this, but like, I mean, it is what it is. And then we see his immaturity off the field, right? Like we see, I don't know.
He's as immature as the way he runs.
Yeah. And I remember, that's true. I just got that. That's true. That's definitely true. I remember seeing, I forgot the name of the show, but it was basically showing his days in high school as like like an elite scout or elite prospect, I should say, and everything. And bro, even his immaturity was showing up there. I mean, I was rooming with earlier this spring with someone who got to know Kyler Murray well, like in college and stuff, and he even talked up his immaturity issues. Like it is what it is. It is what it is, and that's not even accounting for, again, the 2 epic lapses second half of the season. Everybody likes to talk about DeAndre Hopkins not being there, but bro, the Cardinals still had weapons even without DeAndre Hopkins, right? They still had weapons, and he wet the bed.
Yeah,
he wet the bed. But that's besides the point. Like, who's in the second tier? The Eagles, 49ers, Cardinals, they're all beatable. Cowboys, Commanders.
Yeah, it's wide open. There's literally no excuse. Like it's wide open.
There's no excuse for us not to make the playoffs this year. We are the hardest team in the NFL to determine. As we did not even come close to playing potential 2021. We win 11 if they show up. I mean, to be fair, I had us in 2020. I had us going 7-9. Ended up being correct. Last year, I had us going 8-9. We had one less win than that. So, I mean, this year 9-8. But I mean, is 11 wins possible? I mean, when the last time we won 11 wins? 30 years ago? Is that possible?
I mean, I think it's there. Again, different circumstances. Like you said, the NFC is wide open. Schedule is super. I mean, the schedule is literally set up for like, all right, man, y'all can't mess this up. You have 2, I mean, granted, we call them easy games, but I'm pretty sure the Jaguars and the Lions are looking at their schedule like, oh, we get to play the Commanders week 1 and we get to play the Commanders week 2. So I feel like other teams look at us like how we look at the Jaguars and the Lions. But still, we get 2 games that's kind of like, you can make some mistakes here and there. You can have some chemistry issues and potentially still win these games. And then when you start to get to the media schedule, when you start playing better teams, hopefully you have everything together and then you can go. The bye week, even though I prefer it in the middle of the season, is towards like where we can kind of catch a break to get ready for a playoff run. Like they literally set this schedule up to where like, man, y'all cannot fold this. Like we don't do this. I mean, unless it's, again, some severe injury, COVID situation, we have a problem on our hands if we can't at least go to the playoffs.
And it's only right after the brutal schedule that we had last year, right? How many top freaking 10 quarterbacks did we have to face last year?
Rodgers, Josh Allen. That was the first third of the season.
Everybody.
We called Russell Wilson at the best time, probably. Got Derek Carr. We actually beat him. Tampa Bay with Tom Brady beat them.
Beat him.
Yeah, boy, we went through it with the quarterbacks last year. We didn't deserve that.
You mentioned, did you mention Josh Allen as well?
Yeah,
he's
soon.
Bro, he's
like week 3 or 4. Like
he smacked us. Oh my, I can't. I'm just remembering the Bills game right now. Oh my gosh.
Couldn't keep him couldn't tackle him, and just third downs, couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop us on third down. Like us as in like us, me and you. They couldn't. We could have gone out there and got a couple of first downs against that third down defense we had the first half of the season last year. It was bad, man.
Yeah. Red Wings. I mean, I kind of see this point as well. I know, Rico, you said if he just plays the same he played last year, then 10 wins. But I mean, I kind of get this as well. Maybe playing a little bit better than he played last year might get us to 10 wins. Obviously, everything this season I disagree with RG3 talking about how the defensive line is the biggest key for us this season. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's all about the quarterback, right? It's
Period.
Carson Wentz. He has to play well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for every team every year, it's the quarterback with the way the NFL is set up now. But then us especially, because we have a high variance quarterback. We have a quarterback that can play. I mean, there was like a 4-game span where people were talking about is Carson Wentz back. Like last year, like somewhere in the middle, Carson Wentz had one of the best 4-game runs out of any quarterback in the NFL. Then you have the Jaguars game when you needed him to play his best at the most important time. Yeah. And so it's just, it's a high variance quarterback. You never know what you're going to get game to game.
Yeah, this is completely fair, Red Wing, as well. They could be the second for sure, but I think the first. I think Rico and I are on the same page. It has to be Carson.
It's gotta be. Yeah.
And I'm not sleeping on the Giants, but I think it's fair to say they're the worst team in the division right now. Brian Daboll, I do like the hire. I do.
It was way better than their previous coaches. I like a few of their hires. They brought in like 3 coaches. I'm like, man, y'all should have done that sooner.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. So we got 2 more questions before we wrap up, Rico. So the Deshaun Watson situation, there's reports that potentially could be suspended for the entire 2022 season, which honestly didn't really come as a surprise. But I mean, obviously there's many more important legal and just societal issues at play with Deshaun Watson and what he did or what he's accused of doing and all that. And I hate to just dismiss that. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but what are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? Potentially, if he's out for the season, right, we don't have to play him, right? And Baker Mayfield reportedly is going to probably end up with Seattle, right, via trade. What are your thoughts on us playing the Browns then?
I mean, first of all, that makes our schedule even easier. We already have tied for the league's easiest schedule, and that's what the Browns calculated from what they basically did last year, and then assuming that Deshaun Watson would play and things like that. Now, their run game is going to be potent no matter what. Their defense is too talented. But, I mean, I'm not afraid
of Brian Mathis, right?
Yeah.
Stop the run.
Yeah, true. And we for Darian Mathis, I just think I'm not afraid of Jacoby Brissett. I think he's fairly underrated. I feel like what he did with the Dolphins last year, kind of flew under the radar a little bit. But what is that, week 16, 15, somewhere near the end, and it's like a must-win game for us. I can definitely see us beating them without Deshaun Watson, and if Baker Mayfield gets traded. So they definitely don't strike fear in my heart with the situations they have going on right now. Still a very talented team. But if Carson Wentz is playing out well as we hope he does, and Jacoby Brissett is their starting quarterback, I can see us winning.
Yeah, bro. I think even maybe saying very talented might be an understatement. I think the Browns, I said this on Twitter after they got Deshaun Watson, and I assumed that he would be out for this entire season. But I said 2023, I could see them being, maybe not the Super Bowl favorite, but one of the leading Super Bowl contenders. I'm serious, bro. That team is stacked.
Quarterback for sure.
No. I mean, with Watson at quarterback, once he starts playing, assuming it's gonna be 2023, bro, they have a talented roster. Running back, receiver, they're probably gonna add to that position over the next year, even though they just got Amari Cooper. I mean, offensive line, one of the best in the league. Defense, they brought back Clowney, I think. They also have obviously Myles Garrett. I mean, they have some good linebackers. They have Jock. They have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who we wanted here.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
Denzel Ward, bro. I mean, that team is stacked.
With infinite cap space. How did they pay in David Njoku all of that money after Deshaun Watson and trading for Amari Cooper? Where did that money come from? But yeah, that team is crazy. That team is super stacked. Just pretty much the general public has been saying they had the most. It was between them and the Buccaneers who had the most talented roster going into last season. It was just up to Baker Mayfield to play well enough, get the chemistry with OBJ. They couldn't get it together for some odd reason. But yeah, man, if when Deshaun Watson plays for the Browns, because it will happen, I doubt he's just going to be completely banished or exiled. When he does, that team is, top 3, I think, is safe to say in the NFL.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I would with Deshaun Watson, I would put that team right now in terms of talent up there with the Bucks, with the Rams, with the Bills. Like I think the Bills are
Yeah.
probably the most talented team in the NFL right now, but like because you have Josh Allen. But I mean, yeah, bro, it's close. It's close. Last question, bro, for the end of the stream. I appreciate you for coming on, hour and 5 minutes, staying over and everything. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Bears Corner, Roger Smith, Livewire, David DC, Red Wings, Luck, Michael Underwood, Abel Doku, Tommy T, everybody that was in the chat. LF, my guy Abdullah, co-host of this channel, Brown Boy Sports Talk, White Rabbit. Appreciate everybody, James. You guys are awesome. But last question for you, Rico. Give me on June 27, 2022. This is non-commanders but NFL related. Give me your way too early Super Bowl prediction for the 2022 season.
All right, because I'm starting with the AFC. I think the Bills finally get over the hump. I mean, just the fact that Josh Allen never got a chance to touch the field in overtime. And honestly, I think they go all the way to the Super Bowl if they had this. I think they beat the Bengals if they match up with them in the AFC Championship and things like that. And who knows how the Super Bowl goes if you got to go against Josh Allen. I think Joe Burrow's a great quarterback, but Josh Allen, top 2 quarterback right now, in my opinion. And then the defense is ridiculous. It's one of those I think the defense isn't talked about enough just because, I mean, they got Von Miller as a big splash signing, but it's not like they go left and right signing a bunch of big names in free agency. A lot of their guys are drafted or developed. And their team is just so stacked top to bottom. They pay Stephon Diggs long term.
Yeah, and bro, you talk about Jair Alexander being back for the Packers. I think a lot of people are forgetting Tre'Davious White is going to be back with the Bills.
Yeah.
He was out for, right, like most of the season. He didn't play in the playoffs. He didn't play. Yeah.
Yeah, and when that happens, it's like a next man up. The guy that's the second corner has to step up and be the number 1 corner. So now when they move back to second, they're better prepared to be that second corner with Tre'Davious White taking over for being number 1 corner again. And you know how much they love to run zone defense. So the whole system, I wouldn't say the system collapsed without Tre'Davious, but when you love zone defense and you have arguably the best zone cover corner out, it changes things. And I just think they're just going to be too talented. I'm not going to say the Chiefs got worse when losing Tyreek Hill, but I think that's enough to where the Bills are going to overtake them if they see them again in the playoffs. Now the NFC, the Rams are just, you lose Von Miller, but then you gain Allen Robinson, you gain Bobby Wagner. If not the Bills, I predict the Chargers. Yeah. That game against the Raiders, I felt like that was weird. I'm not going to indict them for that. I think the Chargers are very talented. I think they're a top 4 or 5 team at the very least in the AFC for sure.
And added Khalil Mack and added J.C. Jackson, one of the best cornerbacks.
Oh yeah,
Maryland Terp.
Crazy. For sure, I forgot about the Khalil Mack part. I remember J.C. Jackson. Top 3 AFCs easily. I still got Bills though. Chargers are going to be oh my god. And then are the Bengals gonna fall off? I don't think so. They got their offensive line got better. I feel sorry for them over there. Broncos, Russell Wilson, but I still got the
Why
Bills.
did he stay in the AFC, bro? Like that just I know we talked about it early in the offseason. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he just clearly wants the hardest path to a Super Bowl possible. That had to be purposeful. That just had to be. And then NFC, I think like the AFC is harder because there's so many good teams. The NFC is harder because there's so many question marks. Because like you said, the Packers are very talented, but who knows? Aaron Rodgers laid an egg. He lost to special teams. He lost to special teams and defense. And his defense actually played very well. And the Rams, every time a team builds it, like they buy a team, you kind of want to assume it won't work.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, why doesn't everybody do it? But I think the Rams, I think it could. That team has something going. So I want to lean the Rams. Even that just feels like the popular opinion, but I honestly think Rams and Bills. We'll see about the Bucks. I still think they're very talented, but I don't think they necessarily got way better because they traded. No, they gained Shaq Mason, so I think that's gonna help.
Yep.
That's gonna help a lot, but still,
for nothing, bro. For a bag of chips.
for a
Fifth
fifth
round
round
pick, one of the best guards in the league.
Like, where are we at when D Hop got traded? When Shaq Mason got traded for a fifth? Where were we? But yeah, I know it's a long-winded answer. I mean, I'm literally thinking out loud. I got Bills Rams.
Bro, we're on the same wavelength, my guy. I have Bills Rams as well. I know it's scary. It's always scary to pick the team that just won the Super Bowl to go back to the Super Bowl. It just really never works out that way unless it's like the Patriots or something. Yeah. But I mean the Bills, I said it, they're the most talented team right now. Josh Allen, I've been a believer in, bro. I'm so proud to say. And same thing with John Morant. I've been a big believer in them, bro, since day one, really since their college days. And bro, I think Josh Allen is gonna have a great season this year. I think Stephon Diggs, he had a great season 2 years ago, then maybe dipped a little bit last year. But Josh Allen, I think, became a better quarterback because he passed the ball across the offense, across all the weapons he had.
Sanders had a re-emerging year.
Yep. And now James Crowder is there. And I also think under the radar guy, especially fantasy wise, Gabriel Davis, bro. Who can forget the 4-touchdown game that he had in the playoffs? This man was getting open. Like, bro, that connection might be special. Might be special for sure. So I have the Bills. Although the Chargers could vie for that spot. I mean, the Raiders, we forgot about them. They added freaking Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams, bro. That AFC West is
quarterbacks and edge rushes, boy. Yeah,
bro. My gosh. Oh my. But I mean, some way, somehow, I have the Bills coming out of the AFC. And in the NFC, I mean, again, it's so weak, bro. It is so weak right now. I want to say Aaron Rodgers back in the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people hate him and all that, but I don't know. It's just like he's one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. We got a chance to witness him. Like, I don't know. It would be nice. And he hasn't made the Super Bowl in how many years? A decade? Like, it's not like he wins all the time. So it would be cool. But honestly, I said Packers were going to be in the Super Bowl last year. Didn't work out. They might be in it this year, but I got the Rams. I mean, they not only stayed pat, which is what a lot of Super Bowl champions do and gets me irritated. They improved their team. They swapped out OBJ, even with the injury and all that, for Allen Robinson, right? I mean, they added Bobby freaking Wagner in the middle of their defense, even while not being his old, all pro self. He's still a pretty good linebacker. They added him. I mean, Rams are coming. They're coming. And, Matt Stafford. I mean, a lot of people hated on him because of the Lions thing. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, it's literally Detroit. It's Detroit's fault. Matthew Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he showed it last year. So I got it being Bills, Rams. Who's going to win that Super Bowl, though? My guy?
I mean, I want to root for my Georgia Bulldog, but I think if the Bills get to the Super Bowl, I think just like they're going to game plan better. Josh Allen's going to do some crazy things. I think I actually picked the Bills. If that Super Bowl would have happened, I'm rooting for the Rams, but I think the Bills will win.
Bro, again, we're thinking we're right on the same page. I got the Bills winning that as well. If that's what it
team is just like, bro, it would take some crazy injuries for that team not to be at least top 3 best team in the NFL this year, bro.
Yep. I mean, like every one of, I would say, top 4, top 5. Well, I would say Justin Herbert maybe as a top 5-ish quarterback has something to say about having like the most talented talented roster or supporting cast alongside you being a top 5 quarterback, right? Like Justin Herbert, you could say he's an example of that. You could say freaking Josh Allen's an example of that, but you can't say really Patrick Mahomes' an example of that this season. You can't say, even with the improvements the Bengals made, I don't think the Bengals are a top 5 roster, right?
Yeah.
Outside of Joe Burrow. I think Jamar Chase could be Offensive Player of the Year this year. I think he's going to be insane. I really do. He already had 1,400, almost 1,500 yards last year as a rookie. But yeah, Bills, Rams, Bills winning.
Same here, man. That team.
Yes, sir.
I'm watching so many of their games just to see what good football looks like.
Bro, and we didn't even talk about the coaching, bro. The coaching's elite too. Like,
bro,
I mean, it's just a great, yeah.
Rivera has been talking to them for years and trying to emulate what they did here. It hasn't worked out, but they're trying. I feel like, you get a Josh Allen, that helps a lot. We don't have Josh Allen. But hey, I mean, that team, I mean, there's a reason Ron Rivera has talked to them so often in the past few years, asking as many questions as he could.
Yeah. Red Wings brings up Saints Vikings. I mean, there's so many
Yeah,
wild
the
cards,
NFC is
but
just, I wouldn't be surprised, bro.
yeah, so many question marks. So if we don't make the playoffs this year, people are gonna hate me. They hated me before when I said this, bro. Ron has to be on the hot seat. I get the whole stability thing, but like if we at least don't win 8, maybe not 8. If we don't win like 9 games this year, we got to talk about Ron on the hot seat, right? Like with
Yeah,
the roster we have,
yeah. With the roster, the
schedule.
schedule, like it's just come on now.
Yeah. Yep. But that being said, Rico, appreciate you so much, bro, for coming on. I mean, even with all the work you put in, you still find a way, bro. Every time I like message you and stuff to come onto the channel, and bro, like I don't convey this like maybe all the time, bro, but I appreciate it so much. You're a real one, bro, in this YouTube community, and I'm gonna give you your flowers here, bro, because you're a go for sure. But
Appreciate
everybody,
it.
shout out Rico, shout out this guy. He's a great content creator, great guy, great friend. And Rico, any last things you want to say? Maybe plug your channel or anything before we sign off.
So you can find me on YouTube, Street Scores STR. Oh, it's on the screen right there. You can also find me on Twitter, Street Scores ATL. And I mean, we just content creators. We got to get creative until training camp. We better.
This is the dead part of the season.
Yeah, boy, you better get creative. You got to figure something out. So I'm definitely working on some film sessions and things like that. So that's what I'm gonna be working on. And yeah, man, it's a minute. It was July 26th, a little like 29 days, 30 days until we get really anything to talk about outside of hopefully us signing Terry McLaurin long term before then. So yeah, man, and I'm just excited about Ant returning to the end. I can't wait to see him playing again. And that's really it. I mean, just video games and football right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's summertime, bro. It's summertime. But thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I appreciate everybody for joining. Appreciate all the comments. Comments rolling in really towards the end. Appreciate it. Dave and DC, spot on comment right here. Best comment in the stream. Rico channel is amazing. Good. Guys, go shout him out. Go sub him up, man. Like, get him to freaking 100 like 1,000 subs. Like, I don't care. There's no limit, bro, on this guy. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Rico. Have a great rest of your night and see you on the next one. Oh, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMV Sports Zone channel. I like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone, Instagram, or lowercase DMV Sports Zone, and our TikTok at DMV Sports Zone as well. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and see you on the next one. Peace.